The sun was a dying ember bleeding across the sky as I rolled down the dirt road by Griggs' farm. I'd taken a shortcut to get to Oak Hollow before dark, but dusk caught up faster than I thought. The cornfields loomed on either side, tall and too still. The only sound was the crunch of tires over gravel and the rustling whisper of leaves brushing in the breeze. But something about the air felt wrong. Too dry, too quiet, like the earth itself was holding its breath. That's when I saw it. Just off the road, next to the fence that barely held back the field, stood a scarecrow. Ordinary enough at first glance, until you looked closer. It wore a straw-stuffed jacket mottled with age, and a wide-brimmed hat sagging with mildew. But the head wasn't right. No burlap sack, no pumpkin. Just a crow's skull, long and bleached, with a single glass eye jammed into the left socket. It glinted orange as the sun dipped low, catching the last ray of light like a cat's eye in the dark. I laughed, uneasy, reflexive. Creepy, but clever, I muttered, gripping the wheel tighter. I clicked the radio on, hoping for some music, but got only static. It crackled and hissed like frying oil. I reached to switch it off, and froze. A sound came through the static, a chuckle. Hollow. Wrong. My hand hovered over the knob as I blinked at the radio, and that's when I felt it. That sick drop in your stomach, like when you realize someone's watching you. I looked up. The scarecrow had moved. It now pointed both arms straight at the road, elbows bent like accusing fingers. My heart kicked hard in my chest. I blinked again. Maybe a trick of the light, right? Maybe a weird branch or gust of wind had shifted it. I slowed the truck to a crawl, headlights washing over the figure. The corn behind it stood still, unmoved. Nothing stirred. That same heavy stillness pressed in on everything. I don't know why I didn't just hit the gas. Instead, I stopped completely, engine idling low. Then it died. No sputter. Just gone. The headlights blinked out. The dash lights faded. Silence. I sat in the dark with only the tick of the cooling engine. Then I heard something. Behind me. Not footsteps exactly. More like something brushing against thousands of stalks at once. Whispering. Sliding. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. Cold air hit my skin. My boots crunched dry dirt. The beam flickered in my trembling grip as I aimed it into the rows of corn. Something shifted just out of reach. A shape. Tall. Human-shaped. Hello? My voice cracked. No answer. Just a low hum. At first I thought it was the wind again, but it kept rising, like multiple voices murmuring over one another. Too many to count. All whispering. I stepped back toward the truck. Then the light caught it, the scarecrow's head, turning. The crow's skull tilted to one side, its glass eye locking onto me. The beam reflected in it, glowing like fire. And then, from the dark rows of corn, a voice rasped, "I'm coming." I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. I whipped the flashlight around wildly. There was nothing but corn, swaying, empty. I bolted back into the truck. The second I slammed the door, the engine sprang to life like nothing had happened. No hesitation. I jammed the gas and peeled off, gravel spraying behind me. But as I turned onto the main road, I glanced in the rearview mirror, and my blood turned to ice. It was standing there, the scarecrow, inches from my back bumper, head cocked, still as death, watching me go. The last thing I heard was the caw of crows echoing across the fields, growing louder the farther I drove. I didn't stop until I hit town, and even then, I didn't sleep. Not after what I saw, because scarecrows don't move. They don't laugh, and they sure as hell don't follow you. But this one did. I didn't stop driving until the town lights appeared on the horizon. By then, my hands were locked on the steering wheel, knuckles white, jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. The scarecrow, the damn thing had stood just inches from my bumper when I looked back. It was impossible. Wrong in a way that left a residue behind, like grime on the inside of your skin. I pulled into the first motel I saw. A squat, flickering light dump called Hollow Pines Inn. It looked like it hadn't had a guest in years, but I didn't care. I just needed walls, a door, and something solid between me and whatever had followed me from that cornfield. The clerk barely glanced at me, handed over a key without a word. I stumbled into room 6 and bolted the door behind me. The room smelled like mildew and old carpet cleaner, peeling wallpaper, an outdated TV, and a dusty nightstand with a Bible drawer. I ignored all of it and collapsed onto the mattress, still in my boots. But I couldn't sleep. Not really. The air in the room felt off, like it didn't belong, like I'd brought something in with me. Around 3 a.m., I finally dozed off. The static of the radio from the truck still buzzed in my ears. Then came the dream. I was standing in a field under a blood-orange sky, the corn towering on every side. Shadows shifted between the stalks, whispering in hundreds of voices, all saying the same word over and over: harvest. In the distance, I saw the Scarecrow walking, slow, dragging one foot, arms twitching at the joints. Its head turned sharply toward me, glass eye flashing. The voices grew louder. Harvest. Harvest. I jolted awake in the motel bed, sweating and gasping. The hum of the air conditioner struggled in the background. Everything looked normal, until I sat up and saw the straw on my pillow. Just a few pieces, but clean, bright, fresh, as if it had just been plucked from a scarecrow's gut. I froze. Then something scraped the window. I whipped my head toward the glass, heart hammering, but nothing was there. Just the flutter of the curtains swaying in a breeze I couldn't feel. I told myself I was being paranoid, just shaken, that's all. I shoved the straw under the pillow and tried not to think. The next morning, I walked into a nearby diner for coffee. A bell jingled overhead as I stepped in. The place looked like it had time-warped from the 60s. Red booths, chipped counter, smells of grease and burnt toast. A few locals sat hunched over their plates like shadows melting into their seats. I slid into a booth. The waitress, gray hair, hands like brittle leaves, poured me coffee without asking. "Rough night?" she said. Her eyes lingered too long. "Something like that," I muttered. A man at the bar turned at the sound of my voice, weathered face, farming hat low over his brow. He stared at me with something between recognition and pity. "You came from the East Road, didn't you?" he said, voice like gravel. I didn't respond. He nodded slowly. "Saw the Scarecrow, then?" I tensed. "It's just a story," I said too quickly. He let out a breath. "You saw it and lived. Not many do." The waitress shushed him, but he kept staring. "Some say it only shows itself near the harvest. Those it marks, it follows. You don't run from it. You just buy time." I left before I could hear more. The door slammed behind me. Back at the motel, the air was even heavier. Still. I tried to distract myself, flipping on the TV. It crackled to life on the local news. The anchor's voice droned. 3 travelers gone missing near the Griggs Farm stretch of Highway 19. All disappeared during late harvest season. Police urge caution but have no leads. My stomach dropped. That night I pulled the curtains tight, double-locked the door, and left the light on. Sleep came slow, and only after exhaustion dragged me down. But at some point, something woke me. A faint sound. Not inside. Outside. Scraping. A tap. I sat up, heart drumming. The noise came again. Not the window this time, but from the wall. From every wall. And then I saw it. Outside my window, bathed in the pale yellow glow of the parking lot light, stood the Scarecrow. Motionless. Still nailed to its cross. But not in the cornfield. It was here. Right outside room 6. Its crow's skull tilted toward me, glass eyes shining. Watching. Waiting. The morning after seeing the Scarecrow outside my motel window, I told myself it had to be a dream. A hallucination. Something cooked up by fear and exhaustion. But when I opened the curtain, the empty patch of grass where it had stood was unmistakably trampled. Straw bits scattered across the sidewalk like breadcrumbs. I left the Hollow Pines Inn that morning without a destination, just the need to keep moving. I tried to distract myself with noise, flipping through static-choked radio stations and forcing down bad gas station coffee. But every time I looked up at the sky, a black dot circled high above. At first, it was just one crow, then 3, then more. By noon, I had 15 of them following me, perched on power lines, on rooftops, on the bed of my truck when I stopped for gas. The clerk gave me a weird look as he handed back my change. "You doing some kind of bird-watching thing?" I didn't answer. Back at the motel, I needed to know I wasn't going insane. I sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out my phone, and did something I never thought I would. I called Marley. We hadn't spoken in 2 years. She was still doing that folklore podcast, Unburied Truths or something like that. Always chasing myths, legends, local curses, the kind of stuff I used to roll my eyes at. But now I needed her. To her credit, Marley picked up on the second ring. "Chase," she said, surprised. "Didn't expect to hear from you. Thought you hated ghost stories." "I saw something," I said. "At Griggs' farm." There was a pause. Then, "The Scarecrow. You know the legend?" "I've heard pieces. Some farmer in the 30s made a scarecrow from stolen bones. Some say it was built to guard his land. Others say it was meant to curse thieves. Either way, there's talk of travelers vanishing near that property every few years. No one's ever proven anything. I saw it move. It spoke. Now the crows won't leave me alone." Another pause, then a shift in her tone. Serious now. Focused. "Send me the address. I'll be there by morning." I hung up and felt a small measure of relief. Someone else was in this now. Someone who believed. That night, I couldn't sleep. The air in the room felt thick, heavy. I stood by the window, watching the parking lot under the flickering street lamp. Crows still dotted the nearby telephone pole like sentinels. Just past midnight, the first thump came. It was soft at first, barely more than a tap. I turned toward the sound and the room plunged into shadow. The lamp outside had gone out. Another thump. Louder. Closer. Then a slam against the window. I rushed to it, heart in my throat. A crow hit the glass again, wings flapping madly. Then another joined it. Then 5 more. Within seconds, a dozen crows clawed and crashed against the glass like they were trying to get in. The noise was deafening. Screeching, cawing, scratching. I backed away as feathers and blood smeared the window. And then, dead silence. I crept back to the glass. They were gone. Every single one. The parking lot was empty again, the night still and sterile. But drawn on the inside of the glass, traced in a film of condensation, were 5 symbols. Jagged, crooked, deeply scratched. Not letters, not numbers. Just marks that looked wrong. As if they didn't belong in this world. As if someone, or something, had left a message only I was meant to see. I didn't sleep again that night. Not with the Scarecrow somewhere out there. And not with the feeling that every whisper of wind outside was a voice, waiting for me to listen. Marley arrived the next morning in a dusty old Subaru with podcast stickers plastered across the back window. She stepped out, hair pulled back, camera bag slung over one shoulder, and that same look in her eyes I remembered from before. Skeptical, sharp, and just a little too excited for something I knew we shouldn't be chasing. "I brought my gear," she said, handing me a coffee before even saying hello properly. "Let's find your Scarecrow." I wanted to tell her it wasn't a story this time. It wasn't a myth. But she'd believe it soon enough. We started at the local archives, a tiny room inside the town's post office with yellowing records and dust-thick files. Marley combed through old papers like she was searching for gold. I watched the windows. She finally found something. A black and white photo from 1932. 3 men standing in front of a cornfield, smiling proudly beside a scarecrow nailed to a wooden frame. Same wide-brimmed hat, same stitched jacket, same crow's skull for a head. "Look at this," she whispered. "That thing hasn't changed. 90 years, Chase. She flipped over the photo. Scrawled in ink were the words, "First harvest after the accident. He'll keep them out now." I didn't want to know what accident they meant. We drove back to Griggs' farm around noon. The air thickened the closer we got, like the road itself didn't want us there. The corn swayed in a wind I couldn't feel. Crows circled in distant spirals, silent. We parked at the edge of the field. The Scarecrow was gone. The wooden cross still stood in the dirt, old nails sticking out at odd angles. But no figure hung from it, just scraps of cloth fluttering like torn flags. "He was here," I said. "I swear, Marley, he was right here." She raised her camera and took a few shots. "Let's see what's left." We entered the cornfield together, stepping between the rows. Each stalk stood taller than me, dry leaves brushing our arms like brittle fingers. We walked slowly, careful not to separate. 10 minutes in, Marley stopped and crouched. "Chase, look at this." At her feet, just beneath a mat of dried straw, were teeth. Human. Some whole, others cracked, yellowed with age. There were no bones, no skull, just the teeth, scattered like forgotten coins. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. The whispering started again, not in my ears, but in my chest. Low, distant. And then it said my name. Chase. I turned around, heart pounding, but Marley hadn't spoken. Her eyes were wide. "You heard that too?" "I think it came from you," she said, stepping back. I didn't say anything. "Chase." This time the whisper came from the corn, but it wasn't just a voice. It was my voice, mocking, hollow, like it had been dragged out of me and twisted. I stumbled backward, breath caught in my throat. Marley grabbed my arm, and we ran, shoving through stalks, tearing past rows that seemed to stretch forever. When we finally burst out onto the dirt road, the sky looked darker than it had any right to be. We reached the car. I didn't look back, but as we drove off, I could feel it again. That pressure, that pull, like the field had sunk a hook into me. And I knew what the whisper meant now. The Scarecrow wasn't just following, it remembered me. It was calling me home. That night, I heard my name outside the motel door. Not just whispered, spoken. Clear. Familiar. It was Marley's voice. "Chase," it said, soft and steady. "Come out here. I need you." But Marley was asleep on the other bed. I saw her chest rise and fall in the dark, slow and steady. I should have stayed put. Should have known better. But when something sounds like someone you care about, your brain shuts off. The part that says this isn't right gets drowned out by something older, deeper, some primitive instinct to protect, to respond. So I got up. I slipped on my boots, grabbed the flashlight, and opened the door. The hallway was empty, but the voice drifted again, from outside this time. "Chase, hurry!" I stepped out into the cold, windless dark. The motel's lot was barren under the half-moon glow, but the cornfield behind it, Griggs' farm, loomed like a wall. The rows moved even though the trees didn't. Something breathed in there. I followed the voice. I don't remember walking, I just remember being inside. 1 second on pavement, the next deep in the corn. No edge, no transition, just stalks on every side, and the rows twisted. No matter how I turned, I ended up back where I started, or at least where it felt like I'd started. The paths curved subtly. Left led right, forward bled into back. My flashlight beam danced uselessly over dry leaves and dirt. No wind, no sound. Until I saw something lying in the dirt. A leather wallet. Weathered. Cracked. I picked it up with shaking hands. The driver's license inside belonged to a man who'd gone missing in 2019. I remembered the name. Saw it on the news. Just ahead, another glint. Keys. Dozens of them, scattered like breadcrumbs. Beside them, a shattered phone screen reflecting my own pale face. All of it was from the lost. Victims. The Scarecrow had kept their things. I should have turned back. But I didn't. I pushed deeper into the maze, the silence pressing against my skull like a vice. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Something behind me. Wet. Ragged. Labored. like straw lungs struggling to pull air. I turned slowly, flashlight raised, and there it was. A blurred figure, half hidden in the corn, its form twitching like it didn't know how to stand upright. The wide-brimmed hat was unmistakable. The crow's skull glinted, its arms jerked up, elbows bent in the wrong direction. The voice came again, but not Marley's anymore. It was mine. "Help me," it said from its straw mouth. "You left me here." My legs finally remembered how to move. I ran. Every turn became tighter. The rows closed in. Leaves slapped my face, tugged at my shirt. The ground twisted under my feet. Behind me, I heard it lumbering after me, one foot dragging, straw rustling, glass eye clicking with every step. Then a hum began, low and collective. The same voices from the first night, whispers swelling like wind through the field. "Chase, chase, chase." I crashed through the corn and fell hard, right in front of Marley's van. The field spat me out. I scrambled to my feet, gulping cold air. Marley threw the van door open, face pale, drone controller still in her hands. "I lost you on the camera," she said. "The feed just died." I looked at the screen, just static. I turned back toward the field. Nothing moved. But the corn whispered my name again, softly this time, like it was memorizing it. Preparing. Marley helped me inside. I didn't tell her what I saw, because I wasn't sure it had stopped following me. And deep down, I feared the truth. It never had to follow, because I had already brought it with me. We didn't go back to the motel. Marley and I parked the van on the edge of a closed rest stop about 10 miles from Griggs' farm. Remote, no other cars, no lights, just two scared people and a vehicle between them and something that didn't belong in this world. Marley didn't say much. After what she saw on the drone footage, after it cut out right as I screamed, her curiosity shifted into fear. Real fear, the kind you don't admit out loud. We locked every door, covered the windows, sat in silence, listening, waiting. That night, the Scarecrow came to us. It started with the scratching. Soft at first. Just a tap-tap against the rear window like a tree branch in the wind. But there were no trees here. Then came the creaking, like wood bending, like limbs stretching after a long sleep. We both held our breath. Then, tap, tap, tap. On the passenger side. Marley grabbed the flashlight and aimed it toward the window, but the beam hit nothing, just an empty, fogged pane. Until something tapped again, louder, more insistent. The glass began to creak. I whispered, "Don't move. Don't even breathe." But I couldn't stop staring. On the driver's side window, the mist began to clear, and in the clearing, I saw it. A silhouette, inches from the glass. Too still to be alive, too solid to be a shadow. The Scarecrow. It stood tall and wrong, its crow skull tilted, its one glass eye gleaming like a dying star. Its arms were raised, not outstretched like a crucifix, but bent. Bent at the elbows, hands hovering just above the van like a puppeteer dangling threads. Its fingers moved. Wooden. Splintered. Tap. 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 It knew we were inside. I reached for the van keys on instinct, but they were gone. Marley mouthed, "Where are they?" I shook my head. The Scarecrow turned slowly toward the front of the van, then vanished, just gone. No sound, no movement. We stayed frozen. Minutes passed, maybe hours. At dawn, the light returned, and so did my sanity. A little. I opened the van door and stepped out. Nothing. Just tire tracks in the dirt. But only our van had been here. We hadn't heard another engine, hadn't seen headlights. And yet, circling the van were faint impressions. Thin, crooked tracks that weren't made by tires. They were too narrow, like something dragged itself around us. We packed up and drove to town, hoping to regroup. Hoping to put distance between us and the field. We found a gas station and pulled in to use the restroom. That's when I noticed the back of the van. The rear window, on the inside, was smeared with muddy fingerprints. 5 long streaks dragged down the glass. And on the floor, where Marley had slept, was a small pile of straw. No blood, no sign of a break-in, no Marley, just straw, and the smell of old earth. I screamed her name, ran through the station, asked everyone, called her phone. Nothing. It was as if she had never existed at all, except for the voicemail on my phone, one I didn't remember getting. I played it on speaker, static. Then her voice. Chase, don't let it in. If it whispers, don't answer. It knows your voice now. The message ended with a soft laugh, the same one I'd heard on the radio the night I first saw it. I drove aimlessly for hours, but no matter how far I went, I saw them. The crows, waiting, watching. And behind them, somewhere in the fields beyond sight, the Scarecrow walked, patient, deliberate, because it didn't need to chase me. It knew exactly where I would go. I don't remember deciding to go back to Griggs' farm. I only remember waking up there, truck idling by the edge of the corn, sun low in the sky again like it had never moved, like time had snapped back to where this all began. Marley was gone. Her phone, her bag, her scent, all vanished. Only a brittle trail of straw led away from where she'd last slept. I followed it. I had to. The rows welcomed me this time. No resistance, no maze, just a straight, narrow corridor between the stalks, drawing me deeper and deeper. The whispering began again, louder now. No longer just background noise. These were voices I knew, Marley's, my own, and others I couldn't name but somehow recognized. All of them echoing a single word. Return. The old Scarecrow pole still stood at the heart of the field, splintered and sagging with rot. It leaned slightly, like a gravestone. Beneath it, the dirt was disturbed, black and cracked like it had been burned once and never healed. I dug with my bare hands. The earth gave way easily, as if it had been waiting. Inches down, I hit cloth, then bones, a broken jaw, a child's shoe, a belt buckle with initials long erased by time, and then more. Not just one body, hundreds, stuffed with straw, glass eyes embedded in skulls like staring stars. Their limbs were twisted like they'd been posed, mocking life, mocking rest. I stumbled back, retching, my fingers trembling, and that's when I remembered. I had been here before, a long time ago, 17, drunk, daring my friends to sneak into the old cornfield at night. I found a charm nailed to the Scarecrow's post, a crude necklace made of crow bones and braided wire. I took it, wore it like a joke. I stole from this place. And the Scarecrow, it remembered. It had followed me ever since, patient through the years, watching, waiting, feeding on those I brought near, those it could trade for what was taken. And now, it had come to reclaim the final debt. Me. The stalks rustled behind me. I turned. The Scarecrow stepped through the rows, slow and graceful, as if it were gliding on strings. No cross, no post. It didn't need them anymore. It had become the field, a sentinel risen from root and bone and vengeance. Its crow's skull tilted, and the one glass eye burned like a forge. "Return!" it hissed. I stood there, broken, lost, and I understood. This wasn't a haunting, it was a harvest. I reached into my coat pocket without thinking, and found the charm. Still there after all these years. Still strung with old wire and worn bone. I dropped it at my feet. The Scarecrow didn't flinch. It raised a hand and pointed at the earth. "Bury it." I obeyed. I dug the shallow hole again with bleeding hands and placed the charm into the soil. The whispering ceased, the corn fell still. But it wasn't done. It stepped closer, and from beneath its jacket fell Marley's bracelet. It landed softly on the ground between us. Her voice whispered through the leaves. "Chase," I screamed. Not out of fear, but rage. "You took her! You took everyone!" The Scarecrow lowered its head, and for the first time, I saw what lay beneath the skull. A face. My face. Twisted, straw-packed, eyes sewn shut, a mouth stretched in eternal agony. It was me. Or the part I had left behind when I trespassed, when I stole. When I fed it, I ran. Through the corn, through the night, until the farm vanished behind me. I drove for hours, days, I don't know how long, but I can't escape. Because I see it in every field I pass now. Every scarecrow with one glass eye, every whisper in the wind. Every time I sleep, I hear the crows. And I know this truth. You don't survive the scarecrow. You just become part of the field.